Hello and welcome to your daily devotional series on Isaiah. It's good to have you all with me today as I look at Isaiah 25. It's going to be probably a short little video today. I've been busy with housework, gardening, all the kind of stuff. Probably the only kind of stuff at the minute that we're actually able to do. Painting fences, out with the kids in the garden, and needed I bring some stuff to my mother-in-law. So a few things to do today, but I thought it's just good to share the thoughts I got from this morning's reading of Isaiah 25. Before I look at that, I just wanted to give a shout out to some other people I'm in contact with that are also doing teaching throughout this time. And a friend I've directed you to before. Just this psalm I'm looking at today, this passage I'm looking at today, it's all about praising God, worshiping God. And I know this is a friend of mine, Malcolm Cox, who teaches in our churches. If you look up Malcolm Cox on Facebook, you'll find there's a Psalm of Ascent series, which is just an excellent, consistent series. Malcolm does it, looking at how to worship God and calling us higher in our worship. So just shout out, if you can check that out, will be amazing. Lots of good material out there, lots of good stuff I've been reading, even a commentary on Isaiah as I've went along, which I find incredibly helpful just to get deeper into the meaning of some of the passages. I've actually a lot of good history books behind me. I should have done this before actually. What I'd like to do is give you a little recommendation. This little recommendation is called Israel and the Nations. I can't see that, you can see it with the light shining in there, sorry. There we go. Israel and the Nations, F.F. Bruce. I read this in my early days and I absolutely loved it. Fantastic book for breaking down the history. Have a few others, but just definitely recommend that book. So what we're going to look at is Isaiah 25. We've got to a chapter which is all about praising God. There's lots of stuff that we've went through where God has told us this has to happen, you must be dealt with. And to the people dealing with that at the time, that some of the people that was probably good. But this is all about praising God, praise to the Lord. O Lord, you are my God, I will exalt you and praise your name, for in perfect faithfulness you have done marvelous things, things planned long ago. What God does, it's not off the cuff, it's not something that was unplanned. God has a plan to do good to his people, but also a plan to deal with injustice and sin as well. So he talks about, you've made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreigner's stronghold, the city no more, it will never be rebuilt. But God is described throughout this of what God has done. You rejoice because of what you've done. Even if that what you've done, or you've allowed something to happen that I didn't like, you're still worthy of worship, God. You're still the great I am, the creator of all things. You're still the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning of all time. Before time you were, at the end of time you will be. God is in everything. He's worthy of worship, regardless of whether it's a good or bad thing that we're experiencing, essentially, which is what I learned from this. But what I want to look at again is verse 6. On this mountain the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all people. So you may remember this whole concept of the mountain of the Lord. It's something that was mentioned throughout Scripture actually, but we looked at it in Isaiah chapter 2, the mountain of the Lord. In these last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as chief among the mountains. It will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. And it goes on, people will come and say, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord. God's mountain will be chief among the mountains. This is our resting place. This is God's new Jerusalem. This is the holy, holy place to be. This is with God. And he often talks about this mountain, because to that time the people were surrounded by mountains, and they talked about the large mountains, and people lived in the mountains and also in the plain. But this is chief among the mountains. I want you to think, and what today's lesson is about is a little glimpse into the future. And this is what God has given us. He said, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines, verse 6. On this mountain he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, so removing the veil that holds people back from seeing him, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces. He will remove the disgrace of his people from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. God again has reminded us of something that's essential. that we simply must do. We must visualize the future. I was watching the news not that long ago, and it was the army sergeant who's doing laps of his house, 100 laps at his house, and they set out with a goal to raise £1,000. Then they were astonished that they made £5,000. I think they're somewhere in the region of £15 million right now that they've raised. Around the world, different news from around the world is reporting on what this guy has done. Incredible story. I mean, just a heartwarming story in the midst of a very difficult time that we're all going through right now. Another bad day, 860 something deaths within the UK. So continue to pray. But a really heartwarming story. And he did say in it, as he was seated on his chair, at the end of all this, he said, the sun will shine again, the clouds will be removed. The guy's been through a lot in his lifetime. And as he and many other people have learned, we simply must visualize certain things when we're in the midst of difficulties. And this is what God's getting us to do here. Saying, look, you've dealt with a lot as my people. Some of you are banished. Some of you have been dealing with incredible difficulty, with more ahead. But think about this. You must think about this. My mountain will be glorious. It'll be chief among the mountains. Your home, essentially. The people would think of the mountain and think, that's where I will live. Jesus said, I went off to prepare a place for you. And in that place, this place that God talks about, says I'll remove anything that stops people from seeing me. The veil that Moses had when he came down the mountain, that shroud that enfolds all peoples will be removed. But said he will swallow up death forever. We'll no longer die. No longer be an issue. What came about from the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden, we'll no longer have to fear that. Imagine that there was no such thing as death. Everything that we fear would almost come to nothing. Fear itself would be banished. He says, you will never have to worry about death. I'll swallow it up forever. That's certainly one of the things that helped me become a Christian. It talks about people being in slavery all their lives because of their fear of death. And this will be swallowed up and removed. Gone. No longer an issue. And it doesn't stop there. He also says, the sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces. It's not a case of fear as a tissue, dry up your tears there. I will lovingly wipe away the tears. There will be no more, non-existent. You will not cry. In that day you will not have any pain. You will not die. You'll have no more pain. You will not be tearful. You won't even be sad. And I'll remove the disgrace of his people. I think it's a profound phrase. We are a fallen being, species. Adam and Eve in the garden, ever since that time we've a sinful nature. We bear a disgrace, we bear a guilt that we carry with us, whether we like it or not. But it says, I will remove their disgrace. Right now we have all our sin washed away, and we should have our guilt removed. But it's like God will make us anew. And I think the reason I share this today is what we think about is essential in these times. Will determine our outcome. Whether we get through all of this without any wounds, whether we can make the best of this current coronavirus lockdown. We just heard tonight with 3 more weeks of lockdown. 3 more weeks. But that's at least 3 more weeks. We don't know what could be more. How are we going to get through all this? It's how we think. It's essential that we think the right way. I want to share this with my kids later on. This is the way we need to think. We need to think God's got a future plan for us. God's given us a little glimpse into the future. And he's shared it with his people this time again deliberately. Because he wants them to think about it now before they've got there. Jesus said before he left, he says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in me. Think about it before you get there. And that's what's going to help us to get there. And it's not even just about a time in the future. It's about thinking about God preparing that room, preparing that mountain that will essentially at some point in our life as Christians remove death, remove pain, remove tears, remove our disgrace. We're going to have all that removed. So again, I just say this today to help us deal with our current predicament so that we can be full of hope, full of joy, and hopefully, like this one talks about, full of praise and full of worship. So I pray this can help us. I pray that we're praying through these things. Please continue to let me know what wonderful things you're doing at the moment in the middle of this current pandemic that we're in. Being stuck at home, life transformed. Please continue to let me know just how you're getting on with that. As always, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, That Bible Guy. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Tomorrow we're back with a song of praise. So we'll see what tomorrow throws up in the song of praise. Maybe I'll even sing. With that thought, I'll leave you. God bless and be back again tomorrow.